Hi, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
Hello, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back from race weekend. We hope you got to catch the race yesterday. It was an interesting one, but if you didn't, don't worry. We're about to recap everything you missed. On the episode today, we have Amy, Meg, Mel, Leanne, and myself, Chelsea. And I'm going to pass it off to Amy, who's going to start us off with Friday news.
So, the biggest news that came out of Friday's practice session was that during FP2, Daniel Ricciardo had a crash after trying to avoid hitting Oscar Piastri, who had previously crashed, which resulted in Danny being taken to the medical center after his crash. It later came out that he went to the hospital with a broken wrist. After the fact, they actually got more specific, and it was a broken metacarpal. Liam Lawson was brought in to be driving in his place, so we saw Liam do the rest of the practices and qualifying. Normally, we've seen Liam Lawson drive in free practices, FP1s in particular, and in postseason testing, but this will actually be his first full F1 weekend with a team.
So I usually watch practice sessions on Fridays while I'm working, kind of use as background noise. So for FP2 on Friday, I was in a meeting, unfortunately for me. But let me tell you, I was talking to my colleague, and all of a sudden, at the corner of my eye, I just see Oscar and Danny by the barriers, and I was just like, "What happened? Social media is going to be popping off soon." So I just thought the worst, but when I saw the replay later, I was relieved that it was just like their own thing each. I mean, of course, Danny did have his fracture, but at least it was that, and both of them still came out okay, and it was not worse.
Yeah, I was working and I wasn't really on my phone, so I couldn't watch the race. But I remember I checked the group chat and all I see was Danny and super big exclamation points. I was like, "What? No, what did I miss?" And it was Danny in the wall. So it's really just sad and crazy to see how long it took Danny to get to where he is. He's finally on the team, and all this commitment just for the next weekend to get hit. Well, to hit.
I think the thing for me that sucked the most was seeing how his hand was shaking after the crash. That just really broke my heart, because if you've ever had a broken bone or any kind of hand injury, really painful. And the shakes are the worst part, because seeing it, just at least in my case, makes it feel that much more worse. And my heart just really broke for him to see him after finally coming back, having summer break, and then his first race back, he's got an injury. But it did come out that Danny got the information for the surgeon who did Lance Stroll's hand and wrist surgery after his big bike accident. So at least he's going to be in good hands with somebody to fix his hand. Now, I have to say, I love that my prediction for a chaotic quali came true this weekend, because I wasn't really sure if I was going to get what I wanted, and I definitely did. Q1, we had Alex Albon in P1, Max Verstappen in P2, and Oscar Piastri in P3. Did lose Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, Valtteri Bottas, and Liam Lawson. Granted, I will not hold that against Liam. It was his first qualifying in Formula One ever, so it's kind of to be expected. Q2 was kind of just as chaotic as Q1. We had Max in P1, Oscar in P2, and Alex in P3. Loving the little reshuffling of that group. We did lose Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, and Nico Hulkenberg. Q3 had Max in P1 again, Lando Norris in P2, George Russell in P3, Alex Albon P4, which I loved to see, Fernando Alonso in P5, Carlos Sainz in P6, Checo Perez P7, Oscar Piastri P8, Charles Leclerc P9, and then Logan Sargent was P10 after crashing out after getting into Q3. This quali, honestly, for me, had me on the edge of my seat. It's definitely one way to welcome us back to Formula One after summer break.
I think my favorite part from quali was the reenactment of Charles in the lawn chair, exactly like Alonso, which if you want to see, just go on our Instagram. It was the best comparison. I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, quali was definitely a fun session to watch, but I want to say how proud I was of Logan making it into Q3 for the first time in his F1 career, making us US fans very proud. At least I was very proud. But I don't know what is going on at the Williams garage or headquarters, but they need to keep on cooking whatever they're cooking. And yeah, they just, as Amy always says, they have that pixie dust and they just need to keep having it because they were him and Alex the whole weekend. That's all I'm gonna say.
I am sorry, but the scream I scrumped when I saw that Logan Sargent was P1 with fastest lap, and I'm like, is this real? Are they tricking me right now? And he was able to maintain it even for just a few seconds. I was like, you know what, Logan? I am so proud of you, baby. You got into Q3. First American there in so long. I love it.
He is the first American driver to qualify in the top 10 since 1993. So it's been a very, 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 very long time since we've had an American driver up there in the top 10. And I can just echo what the girls have said. I was so happy just to see him in the top 10 because Logie Bear deserves it. I think he needed that little confidence boost to go through this weekend just because the rumor was kind of going around with his seat for 2024 and if he'll keep it or not. But James Vowles seems to be pretty confident in Logan. And yeah, I'm confident in Logan too. Hey, I'm glad he's getting his confidence.
I have to say, I'm a little offended that Meg thinks that 1993 is a really long time ago as somebody who was born in 1993. I love you, little sis, but ouch.
Yeah, hey, I kind of want to fight you right now as a 91 baby, so see you on Saturday.
Listen, in like statistical terms, it's a long time for F1 because that's like what 30 seasons of F1 that have happened. And there hasn't been an American driver to qualify in the top 10 in 30 seasons, 30 years, I guess. I mean, there hasn't been that many American drivers, but
You're digging yourself out very well. That was a good fact.
And I'm over here thinking it was like 20 years ago. Let's not talk about that. I still think the 90s as a 91 baby with Leanne, that anything in the 90s were like 5, 10 years ago, like not 30 something years ago. Insane, insane, insane. But in general, the quali session had the grid all over the place. And I remember going into Q2 and I was like, yeah, anything can happen at this point. And anything did happen at that point because Lewis was out and I was upset. But on the bright side, Checo did make it onto Q3. So that's a plus. And, that's another confidence boost for him. And everyone else, again, it was just a nice, diverse grid start. Like, I remember joking around being like, Logan made into Q3, but what cost? The cost of Lewis being knocked out. So, but again, I like seeing a nice little switch up from time to time. It keeps it nice and exciting. So before we go into the actual race and what happened, I don't know if you guys saw the content from McLaren or just in general from today or this morning for some of us, but someone gave Max a camera and was doing like a fun like pre-race interview with the drivers. And keep in mind, this is probably more towards Megan since, she's the baby of the bunch. Max had those old school camcorders, the handheld ones with the little like screen that popped out and it was like the little tiny cassette. So when I saw that, I was just like, oh, I was like, that's nice. And I was like typing, I was like, I don't know if people are going to know about this, but that's what it was.
Those are still the newer versions to me. Like, because I'm remembering using VHS camcorders.
The big ones on the shoulders.
I was going to say, I know exactly what camera they were using because we had one and like I had one growing up in my family. So like, and it even seemed like a newer version that they had of one of the like camcorder things. I don't know. I think these teams just love to give drivers cameras and whether that be just like a film camera or a camcorder like we saw today. It's awesome. Just letting the drivers kind of have free range to do whatever the heck they want with these cameras because we get some great content, some behind the scenes, never before seen footage that we don't get when it's other people taking that stuff.
I love when they do that. It's just so much fun to see them see things from a driver's perspective. I personally cannot wait for them to drop like all of the footage because I think it's just going to give much more real and authentic personality from all of the drivers, because it's just like a friend taking a video of his friends. Like, it's just, I think it's a whole different vibe. And I love when they pull out Polaroid cameras or anything. I mean, it's the same reason we all love like Lando and Danny's JPEG accounts, is it's that raw, authentic behind the scenes moments.
Melissa knows where, but I know they released it. And it was super cute. It was really funny. And I don't know. I like watching the behind the scenes, like more so than the actual news things that they put out. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Because even Danny's reserve driver was in the video and he's like in the corner and he was like, you can hear him, I think German. I'm not sure what he was speaking, but he goes to Max. He's like, what the heck are you doing, bro? Like, why do you have that?
So the video's on TikTok, but if I remember correctly, per the comments I saw there, I think it was Nico that was speaking in German, which makes a little bit more sense. So, but he did like talk to Liam, and it was really cute because you can tell like he was like nervous and everything. It was just, it was really cute, like content to see, and like just to see them like interact so friendly. Max was like asking like those open-ended questions, which I love. And just like feeling like asking them how they were feeling about their starting position and whatnot. But what I do want to highlight from all of this is just how Max was like hyping up the drivers after they would say something negative about like whatever was going on. Like Alex said something about wanting to answer the question after the race, and Max was like, no, like you never know what could happen. And in general, like it, regardless of like what they said, he was always positive about it. And I really admired that. I was just like, that's actually really nice because you don't expect that from him, I guess. And he even complimented George's hair, which we know there was a little drama between them. So it was a nice little cherry on the ice cream for me.
I feel like I say this every episode or like every time we record and there's a race. There's Max and there's Maxie. They're two very different people. And though when he has a camera in his hand, I feel like he's Maxie, not like Mad Max.
Honestly, I just think it's nice to see drivers like Max or even Alonso that they have this kind of reputation of being very serious, very like put off by funny things almost. Like people think they're not jokesters. And I think it might be the opposite. They just take their work seriously, you know? To them, it's a job. And I like seeing the behind the scenes exactly with like George complimenting the George compliment hair because a lot of fans put them against one another in their head. And it's like, no, I don't think that's true. I think on the track, there may be enemies. You know, I'm sure some of them maybe even take off track, and there's rivalries we can talk about in other episodes. But it's not that common. I really don't think it is, especially if you grow up together from the ages of like 4. Not going to be enemies. You know, it's just a race.
Now, this is going to sound really funny that I'm even bringing this up as the Red Bull girl, but if you do not follow McLaren online, they posted the best video I think I've ever seen. It just like got me in my feels. There is a photographer who they only gave us his first name, and that is Wolf, Wolf, who apparently went to Zandvoort in 1965 by bicycle to photograph Bruce McLaren testing the M1A. Well, it turns out McLaren decided to bring him back this weekend to take new photos of their current car. He even brought the original slides to show the team, and it was just like such a cool full circle moment. And as I said, it got me in my feels. I love when you get to see things just kind of almost like start to finish. It was such a cute moment for them to highlight.
So I don't know about you guys, but for me, I really like seeing random celebrities show up to these races and see who they root for. And one we got today was Steve Carell. Hello, Michael Scott. You're a bit far from Dunder Mifflin. What are we doing here? No, but honestly, I didn't expect him to be at the Red Bull garage on top of him being just at the race in general. So it was really cool to see that. And again, I'm always just curious, like when they get there, who they're gonna root for, what driver, what team they support, and just how into it they actually are. Because you know, some just go just to go too.
And I don't know if you have like seen it, but on TikTok, he posted the video and he's just there in the garage and he's like, parkour, parkour. I'm like, what are you doing? But he had a great time.
My favorite thing is the Red Bull posts about it. I think there was one where they're using the stay calm bit. On their Twitter account, they just have a caption that says, "Attention employees of Dunder Mifflin." I love that they embraced the character and just ran with it.
Yeah, I really have no idea what Steve Carell was doing at a Grand Prix, but he was there, he was loving it, he was living his best life. Maybe he's filming a movie that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Sorry, I saw his interview. They were literally on a family vacation and they were like, "Hey, there's a Grand Prix." So they went.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's why. They were just on vacation, so they went. So that was their first Grand Prix actually.
That's hilarious because whenever I picture Steve Carell, like I don't know why my mind just goes to Gru. So I'm just imagining like Gru from the Minions at an F1 race.
I too always think of Despicable Me and Gru, but I wish I had that kind of money to be on a holiday already and be like, oh, there's an F1 race. Let's just go and go. Okay.
For me, it's not even like have the money to do that. It's the have the money to do it at that level where they're in a garage. Like, talk about a first F1 experience. Holy hell. I would kill for that. But I mean, he's got the money. Have fun.
Not only a garage, the winning garage. You know they had a blast after that race.
In his interview, he said, "You got to go with the homeboy team." He's like, "You have to go with the hometown kid." So that's why he chose that one.
Yeah, I wonder how, other than that, like people pick what garages they go to for a race weekend. But now getting into the actual race chat itself, this was a long and interesting race to say the least. It was utter chaos that ensued pretty much immediately at the start of the race due to rain falling as soon as the five lights went out. A lot of the drivers immediately dove into the pits, changed for inters, although some did chance it for the slicks. Like, I know Lando chanced it, Oscar, Alex, Max. Some of them eventually did go into the pits, though, to get their inters. And to me, the menace of the day, though, was the rain, since it caused DNFs and the 45-minute long red flag towards the end of the race. So the Menace of the Day award, it goes to you, Rain, and Mother Nature.
I mean, I know we all love a wet race and a little rain because it always just makes for a little bit of a chaotic weekend. But I don't think we meant that much rain, guys. Really don't think that's what we were necessarily going for. For me, this race really reminded me why I love this track so much. And the rain really added to it and made me like it even more. This race just really gave me everything I think I needed to come back to Formula One from summer break and then some, because there was a lot that I didn't see coming. I mean, we saw Ferrari being Ferrari this weekend. I still really cannot understand why they didn't have Charles' tires ready when they had him pit for his first pit stop. Like, what? It's just typical Ferrari at this point.
Apparently, it's because there was a disconnect between Charles and the pit wall. They didn't want him to box, but he decided to tell them while he was in the pit lane that he was boxing. So he didn't have enough, the crew didn't have enough time to get the intermediate tires out and ready to go for him. Or at least that's what I've heard and what the broadcaster said at the end of the race. But it wouldn't surprise me for Ferrari to do something like that, though.
At this point, I'm no longer surprised by anything Ferrari does. It was just a hot mess, central, and miscommunication, all that stuff. I don't know. I just feel like there always needs to be like a plan B, plan C. They always have these plans like A through Z. So I'm imagining amongst all those plans, there's something in there in like these type of scenarios. But again, not surprised.
I would just like to say, Ferrari, hire us. We can be way better strategists. I got you. I will keep my boys on pace.
2 Italian tempers already here.
I just love being able to say that the Red Bull rocket is back, baby, because holy hell. Red Bull just, I don't know what they did when they built that car, but it works. Echo was just like coming out of nowhere to overtake both Lando and George, and it just brought me so much joy, serotonin to see him back. Like it just kind of felt like he was back and refreshed, and it was so nice to see.
Yeah, so when all like that craziness was happening and both Checo and Max were not around like the top two positions, it was like really satisfying to see them like overtake and pass the other drivers. Like they just do it with such ease where it's like they don't struggle like other like ones do. Like you'll see them and everything and they just like go like, all right, to the left, to the right, and it's like straight and it's like, okay, I guess it's really easy for you guys. I don't want to say it's easy for them because I know it's harder than it looks, but they do it that good that it looks that easy.
Thing for me that I think hurt the most in terms of anything within the Red Bull family was Liam Lawson's 10-second penalty for impeding. Poor kid got thrown in the deep end, and I honestly, I have to say it, and I hate even having to say it. I was expecting him to crash out at some point. I'm a massive Liam fan, and I really want to see him do well, but my expectations were like bottom of the barrel low for him this weekend.
Same way as Amy, when I heard the news about him coming in, replacing Daniel, I was just like, it's going to be what it is and everything. But he finished the race in P13. And so for his first run ever in an F1 car, let alone that race in particular, it's pretty impressive. He did the damn thing.
Honestly, I'm happy he got to try, and I'm happy he got to like put his name out there on the grid. I'm sure reserve drivers, they obviously hope for the best for the people that should be driving, but they want to try. So it's a sad day for Danny, and it was a pretty good day for Liam.
I hate to say this, but after this race, I'm not so sure how I feel about Logan's chances of being back next year. I just feel like it's getting slimmer and slimmer. I feel like I've lost count of the number of crashes that he's been involved with, no matter the cause that have happened this season. It's just makes me question. I don't know.
So after the race, I saw online that James had confirmed that Logan's car lost hydraulic pressure before his crash. So essentially, he had no power steering and had no choice but to go wide like he did and end up in the situation that he did. I feel really bad for him. Again, like Amy said, I always worry about like contract renewals and everything because I'm like, it's his first year. Let him warm up a little bit. Let him get used to it. Let's see how he does year two. But I'm not the person that decides this. So I'm just hoping this crash and again, the rumors that are going around about his contract for next year don't damper his spirit for the rest of the season. And he can just take this as okay, let's turn around and let's improve.
So I actually think Logan is going to be re-signed by Williams. I'm actually not too worried about him, only because he has potential. And the problem is, look, Williams, they can find drivers with potential. Look at George, look at Alex, but they don't give them the car to really fulfill that potential. So it's not, I don't think, on Logan or Alex or George when he was on the team. Williams just knows how to pick the right driver for a shitty car because they know if they get a good driver for a shitty car, they're going to be a midfield team instead of the end. So I don't think Logan is going to lose his thing because Williams is like this door to get you into F1. You just really have to hope you can stay in it after.
I also agree with what you're saying, Chelsea, just because I know James Vowles has stated like he is confident in Logan and he is just seeing him shine through every race weekend that kind of passes. And today wasn't really his fault. Like there was nothing he could do. His car, he legit just could not steer his car. And I think, like we've also mentioned previously, Williams is one of the less cutthroat teams that does like to give drivers a shot. So I think we could at least see him for next year. If not, maybe even the year after if he performs well and Williams is getting their act together, like how they're getting it right now, because they're both performing insanely well for Williams. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Logan stick around. I think he deserves it.
Now, if we're going to talk about Williams, we have to talk about the former Williams driver, and that is George William Russell, who at lap like 59 or 60 absolutely had what David Coulthard called the save of the century. And I have to agree because that save of an almost crash had my heart in my throat. I was just blown away. The kid honestly has some killer reflexes, which I mean he should. It's literally his job. But it was just insane to see that almost crash happen. Now, I don't know what was going on with the pit stops, but that 8.3-second pit stop from Aston Martin literally had me yelling at my television because what the heck was that?
The pit stops today were, como se dice, a huge mess. Like, I don't know what was going on, but the mechanics weren't even ready with, let alone enough tires or any tires in general. It was just weird. Like, some of them were missed. Like, they had three and were missing one. Another, like, I don't even know what teams it happened with, but I remember there was one where like one mechanic was like running in front of the car and like chucked it at the other mechanic to like put it in and everything. So I was just like, what is going on? Like, communication. Is Mercury in retrograde and it's affecting the drivers, mechanics, and everything? Or was it the weather and communication was just not that great? I'm making up excuses at this point. It's just like, what is going on?
Maybe it was Mercury. Maybe it was the weather. All I know, or maybe we also got back from the break, like the break, and everyone's a little getting it together, you know? All I know is I agree with Mel because, como se dice, tremendo mess. Just big mess.
So we can actually blame Mercury retrograde for this one. There's a bunch of planets that are all out of whack right now. Mercury went retrograde on the 23rd, so like sorry. I'm sorry, I have no control over this, but yeah, we can blame Mercury for this one. I'm going to use that as to why Alpine made that really kind of weird, almost like Jinx-like decision to put Esty on full wet tires. It was not the move when they made it, and then I think they jinxed it and the rain got worse. Like having to see Sergio Perez sit in the pit lane after the red flag just had me giggling because it's raining buckets and he's just sitting there, no umbrella, no nothing. They did finally bring out the umbrella and a tent, but like as Valtteri Bottas said in the past, it's great weather for ducks. Now, for me, I think the best thing I've seen all weekend was the tire management from Alex Albon this race. I mean, what was that? It was a masterclass, in my personal opinion. It really just impressed me all weekend, and as Melissa pointed out, it seems like Williams just has a steady supply of pixie dust right now because he was just on it this weekend.
I want him to sprinkle the pixie dust on the car every single race. And then on top of that, can he sprinkle just like a little bit on Logan? Like a little bit?
I am so here for that. Like, absolutely. I do have to say, I loved the crowd this weekend. They were fantastic all weekend. But today in particular, the fact that the crowd and the marshals basically started a dance party during the red flag was just iconic. They were next level. I think that may have been the best crowd I think we've had far this season, at least for me. They're my favorite crowd because they were just having a blast. There was a conga line with some of the marshals. It was just iconic. There was a mascot, which I don't think I've ever seen any other Formula One race. I just 10 points, no notes to the crowd.
Loved that too. It was like a lot of fun to watch, and they made the absolute best out of a sucky situation during the red flag. And now that Amy had mentioned like the mascot and everything, I remember my friend was watching it with me and she was like, that just looks like a fun job, hyping up the crowd, getting to like dress up in a suit and just dance around. I was like, hell yeah, I would do that too. Just give me a little mascot suit. I'll be hopping around to some music.
I do have to say, after the red flag, that like 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane for Checo just really confused me because I don't understand why they waited so long to announce that. It just kind of felt like they could have announced it while the red flag was in place and he would have just known from the jump. It feels just a little weird to me, but I do have to say I am so proud of Pierre for keeping that gap with Checo so close. He drove a fantastic race this weekend and couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, his drive was really great. He really deserved the podium finish. I mean, from 12th to 3rd place, that was a time for Pierre. And I believe this is not only his first podium with Alpine, but also his first one since 2021. So definitely well deserved. And he put one hell of a drive in.
I honestly have to tip my hat off to both Pierre and Fernando Alonso for this weekend because both of them, especially today, they came out of nowhere and like up the wazoo. Like especially Fernando into like turn one and like the Tarzan section of the track. He made up like 3 to 5 places like that. Both drivers were flying from the start and they managed to have great strategy throughout the race, good calls, and they managed to stay at the front of the whole pack for pretty much the whole entire race. And it paid off for them, P2 and P3. So go Fernando and go Pierre. And a different podium than normal. So I was excited to see that as well.
As the Red Bull girl, this surprises absolutely nobody, but I loved getting to see Max get another record for the history books. He had to put some work in to get it too, which was just really nice to see. And the reaction from the crowd was just like so good. Hearing them roar when he came across the checkered flag was goosebump inducing for me. Plus, getting to have his friend Martin Garrix wave the checkered flag, that was just like the icing on the cake for me. It was such a cute little moment to see him there, and it just feels like he has officially infiltrated the top of the F1 pyramid for me.
All I know is I'm expecting any sort of footage, content, whatever on social media the next coming days of Max, Lando, and Martin together. Because they definitely went to some club and partied for like a little bit.
I will say that record-breaking thing, amazing. Sad to say, it is amazing. Max Verstappen, in case you guys didn't know listening, he equaled Sebastian Vettel's record for 9 consecutive race wins with the victory this weekend. So, like, we are literally witnessing history this Max season, and I'm just going to call it the Max season at this point because that's what it's going to be known for in the future.
I mean, David Coulthard called it Formula Max at the end of the race when I was watching because I wasn't watching the Sky Sports coverage. And I kind of feel like that's what this year is going to turn into. I know people are going to absolutely hate it, but I think it's just kind of at least it seems like that's what Red Bull is aiming for.
Yeah, and I have to agree with what Lando said. I don't remember if it was during the post-quali interview yesterday or if he said it during some kind of other interview, but he was like, you just have to be grateful that you're even witnessing this kind of era in Formula One and that you're watching that. And he's like, I get it, it can be annoying, but it's incredible to witness and just be a part of. But speaking of McLaren did a typical McLaren this weekend and kept Lando out for way too long instead of boxing him for inters, so he was slipping and sliding all around the track, even though he asked his race engineer multiple times to box, and they said no, that he was going faster, but he was not. So the radio was definitely a little heartbreaking to listen to on his end. But the strategist honestly lost him his podium today since he qualified in P2 and he has the car to stay there and challenge Max, but the strategy was just off, and weather also did not help as well, but at least he managed to come away with some points today, especially since at some points of the race, he was at the back of the pack in like P19 and he had to fight his way through. But like I said, lucky they came away with points though.
Yeah, I do think the strategists this weekend, like in general, were super off their game because I don't know if it was the rain or, like, again, back from break. I mean, Max was in fourth for a hot second, and I know that was like literally just because of Red Bull strat. Like, they had to work, I say work with quotes because it's Max and Checo, but they had to work to get back into first because of that. And I feel like the rain just makes the strategists not so very good. I do want to take a moment though to say I hope Joe is like doing well after his crash. It was towards the end of the race. It was at turn 1. We saw him aquaplane off into a barrier, and the red flag was pulled out. I mean, of course, the race finished with only 7 laps to go, but I feel like we have to remember when we're watching these people, they risk their life for every lap and race they do. So it's just scary to watch, especially another Joe one. we already saw that.
Yeah, my heart broke when I saw him go off and just crash. It's just like I say it time and time again when I'm watching races. I just feel like he's just had terrible luck this season. And all I want, and this is just like in general for like a lot of the driver, like the underdogs, but with him, I just want to see our fashion prince pop off on a race day and just do well and be one of those that's like, holy crap, he did it. But when I saw him in the top three, like in the beginning stages of the race, I was really ecstatic for him because I was just like, yes, it's a different lineup. He's up there, and it showed that he is a good driver and deserves that seat. Because there's been rumors in the air about his contract next year, how they might not renew it and whatnot. So hopefully today's incident and the rumors in general don't dampen his spirits as well. And I just hope it just doesn't affect any possible contracts in his future with his current team or future teams.
So to continue our talk about our feelings for the final results of the race and kind of how our predictions worked out, I didn't make any predictions myself this week, but I definitely would not have predicted two of the drivers that were on the podium today. I would not have said a couple days ago that Fernando and Pierre would have finished on top, but I'm sure as heck happy they did because Fernando deserves to be back on that podium after his kind of start to the season, and good for Pierre. He deserves that confidence boost. But I definitely would have said like one of the McLarens or one of the Mercedes would have been there, but it was not their days today. I'm also sad that Alex finished further down than he started because he was flying in that car this weekend, and I was just so happy and so proud to even see him do well today. And he did manage to still finish in the points, but what can we do? And continuing our talk, Williams, we've already kind of talked about it, but so heartbroken for Logan not being able to finish the race and spinning out again, although it was not his fault. He definitely needs to have a good race under his belt to keep his mentality high and so that he can finish the final push and leg of this season.
Honestly, for me, this weekend was a 10 out of 10. Like, no notes needed. This race was an epic way to come back from a month-long break. I know we all really missed race weeks, and it seemed like the Formula One gods decided to give us everything we needed and then some. It was a nail-biter like I had predicted, which was kind of nice for my predictions and my ego. The drivers really stepped up this weekend to deal with the weather changes, and I just have to give them all a round of applause. For me, Fernando really did come back as refreshed as I really hoped he would have. Seeing him back on the podium was exactly what I really was hoping for. Hearing Pierre's celebration on his radio and in the interviews was just so epic and heartwarming. He was seriously buzzing, and it was just really nice to see how happy the team was as well. Alpine really made me eat my words a little bit from my predictions. I definitely got the wrong Frenchman for P3, but I'm really impressed with Pierre. Went from getting a 5-second penalty to sitting in P3 on a podium. And like we all predicted, it seemed, or at least I predicted, we did get that double Dutch national anthem that we said we would. So I really can't be the only one who enjoyed having some new guests on the Max Verstappen podcast. Well, we did get a return guest with Fernando. We had a first time appearance for Pierre, and it was just really nice to see.
So I had no predictions for this race weekend because at this point, we know who'll win. But it was a great race to watch after the summer break. So that was really nice. Thank you, F1. My friend who's not a fan, and I've been trying to convince her to become a fan so I can have a gal pal close by and watch the races with. Watched the race with my boyfriend and I today, and I'm glad she was given an interesting one, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, she's gonna want to watch another race with us, and it's gonna be like an okay one. But she really liked it. Like she was asking like questions, like what's going on. She was asking about drivers. Lando low key did gain a new fan. So I think it's working. My plan is working. And our girl Meg is like, yes, yeah. So you got another Norris girl over here. But yeah, no, it was fun. It like from the start, it was just chaotic with the rain, the changes amongst the grid, the whole strategy, the tires. It was fun and I didn't sleep. So I have no complaints, like Amy said. And I'm just hoping for another fun one next weekend at Monza.
So sadly, my predictions did not come true. So I think my crystal ball might be like a little broken, but it was still a race I loved watching. Of course, like I mentioned, we're witnessing history basically every race this season. And as much as we love to hate it, Red Bull is absolutely taking over the grid. And everyone else is just kind of racing for the second place in the championship. So please let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure if not the next race, maybe like a couple more, we're going to see Max already be named the champion before the season even ends.
I think I've seen rumors that it could be Singapore, but I think it's more likely that it would be like Singapore or Japan. It's definitely not Monza. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. We've talked about it a million times, we know. But besides the grand champ, who at this point, whatever, PGP's calling it, let me say that the other two on the podium today, Alonso and Pierre, absolutely both deserved it. I think Alonso, he was like on such this high, like this winning streak that everyone was becoming like a big Alonso fan and he was getting these scores. And then suddenly they just started going down. And I think some fans, obviously, they started losing hope in him, but this podium, it's what he needed. I think it's exactly what the team needed because it proves his skill is still there and the Aston Martin skill is still there. And that's what just watchers aren't getting. So he needed to do a little reminder.
Now, it took me a little bit too long to register who was giving Max his medal, and it was Lano's father, who is the Dutch, it's F2 or F3 driver who passed away recently at Spa. It was just such a sweet moment to see, and I think it was really important for them to do. Now, if anybody didn't watch the post-podium interviews, it looks like all of the drivers got these little goodie bags with like sweets and what looks to be like a windmill toy. And Max was quoted as saying, "Look, I got this. It's the highlight of the day for me." And I've said it before, and I will probably say this a million times more, but I love seeing Maxie come out. He just looked like the happiest little kid with a bag of sweets, and it was so adorable to see.
Yeah, look, I'm not a bandwagon because I'm not saying I'm a fan, but Max keeps showing up on my TikTok and I'm starting to like him more, and I don't really know how I feel about that. So, yeah, it is what it is. Maybe I am a bandwagon. I don't think I am.
Now, after the race, it came out from Christian Horner that Daniel will not be racing at Monza next weekend. He is recovering from surgery that he had this morning on his hand, so we will more than likely see Liam Lawson back in the AlphaTauri next weekend, though that has not been confirmed yet, but I'm really not sure who else they would put in the car other than Liam, but we will not be seeing Danny. We're really hoping that Daniel comes back tip-top shape, and we are sending him all of our best wishes.
I'm curious to know how long Daniel will be out, just because I'm a nosy person and I really just want to know. But as mentioned before, he had gone to the same surgeon Lance went to when he had his accident before the start of the season. And we saw how quick Lance recovered. But alas, I am no doctor, nor do I know how severe the fracture is. So we will see how it goes. And again, we just want the honey badger back in tip-top shape as soon as possible.
Now, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we always do our pre-outro. And for us, it's got to be driver of the week this week, and that is Alex Albon. He gave an absolute masterclass on slick tire management during the race this weekend, and he just overall had a killer weekend, this whole race weekend, and we really cannot wait to see what the next race has in store for him.
Thank the Lord it was race week, because I don't know about y'all, but I was going insane without it during the summer break. Our Sundays are now whole again, and it makes me so happy. How did your predictions pan out? Because my TikTok ones did not go well. Let us know in our socials. Everywhere we are at Paddock Girls Podcast, except Twitter. There we are at Paddock Girls Pod. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and share our podcast wherever you listen, like Apple, Spotify, and now on TikTok. Thanks for joining us in the paddock. See you next time. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Gregory.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.